Well guys, the first episode of Marvel's She-Hulk is officially here. So let's talk about the twists, the turns, and the unexpected aspects of the first episode, and what exactly we end up seeing. So the first episode of the She-Hulk series is focused on a flashback, because as we open the series, we see Jen. She's doing her lawyer pitch because she's getting ready to do the biggest case of her life. But before we can get to the case, Jen turns around, looks at the camera, and says, yeah, you probably want to know how I became the She-Hulk, which we will be discussing in the first episode audio commentary that will be available at any tier. So if you sign up right now, you can get the first episode, watch it along with us, and hear all of our theories and speculation. But what this episode does is actually takes care of a good amount of talking about the whole She-Hulk aspect. And how she became a She-Hulk is the first thing they're going to tackle with the flashback. Her and Bruce are traveling, a Sakaran ship shows up, and there's an accident. And instead of doing the whole direct blood transfusion or anything like that, what we end up seeing is some of Bruce's blood just ends up pouring into Jen's cuts. She becomes a Hulk. And she starts to run around a little. She loses a little control, almost reminiscent of the Incredible Hulk when Bruce loses control. She finds herself in weird places. And then fast forward, we actually find out once Bruce is able to find her and bring her to this island retreat, she can control her transformations. It's not really controlled by anything other than her wanting to be a Hulk by the end of the episode. She can literally control it. And during the episode, we get the standard Hulk montage of training with her. We get a pretty good explanation of who exactly Jen is as a character, how she's kind of balancing various things, if that makes sense, in her life, how she's dealing with emotion, how she deals with all sorts of things in life that women have to go through. And throughout this episode, we end up seeing all these little twists and turns, if you will, that add a different layer of complexity and what it means to be a Hulk. Because again, Jen is not the same as Bruce Banner. That's what the first episode is really about. It's about telling you the difference between these characters. And we also learn a couple more details in terms of how the Hulk's metabolism works, and how it can be affected by substances, which I thought was really cool. Just kind of exploring a little bit more of the Hulk, because we haven't had that opportunity in the MCU due to the Universal license and everything. So there's more of it here, which I really do appreciate. And again, by the time that we see that Jen is ready to move on her own, Bruce is still like, no, you need to stay in the back. You need to listen to me. Let me explain to you how this works. And she's like, no, listen, Bruce, we're not the same. You lost control. You never had control in those early years. And he even mentions like a decade that he was running from it. She's like, I don't need to. That's not me. I can't control this because I'm different. And he even in this episode kind of explains some of the differences due to the genetic markers and everything, and how more or less they're closer to one another than somebody else that could be affected by it, which obviously goes back to the whole Abomination thing, and obviously Stan Lee when he drank a little sip of the juice that Bruce's blood got into. So overall, the first episode, definitely great. I love the twist that they straight up break the fourth wall right at the beginning. I love how they just go straight into it, show us the training, and then Jen is back on her own, and here you go, back into the world she goes.